This girl is planning a wedding for a stranger. But then she discovers that the groom is her childhood sweetheart. And then this happens. Let me tell you about this lady, Tomiwa Adeyemi. This woman is sitting in her fancy Maitama apartment in Abuja, sipping Zobo tea at 6 in the morning, while scrolling through emails about million naira weddings. She's 28, successful and completely alone. Her walls are covered with photos of other people's happiest moments, but not a single picture of her own family or friends anywhere. You want to know why? Because 12 years ago, her best friend disappeared from her life overnight, and she has been building walls ever since. Tomiwa runs the most exclusive event planning company in the FCT. Politicians' wives call her. Nollywood actresses beg her for her services. Oil executive daughters won't get married without her stamp of approval. But this morning, she gets a call that's about to turn her perfectly controlled world upside down. Mrs. Folake Ogundipe is on the line, and she's planning the wedding of the century for her daughter in Ibadan. 400 guests, 3 days of ceremonies, and enough money to make Tomiwa's bank account with tears of joy. Hi! Now here's where it gets interesting. Tomiwa drives down to Ibadan for the venue meeting, and she's walking into this fancy hotel in Bodija, feeling confident in her designer Ankara and her business heels. She pushes open the conference room door and freezes like someone that just saw a ghost. Because sitting across the table, wearing a crisp white agbada, looking like he stepped out of a magazine, is Deji Adeyanju, her childhood best friend. The boy who used to steal meat from her mother's pots. The same Deji she carved her name next to under the umbrella tree in their compound. The same Deji she made that crazy pact with when they were kids. Remember childhood pacts now? Those stupid promises that you make when you're young and think the whole world revolves around friendship bracelets and shared secrets. Well, Tomiwa and Deji had carved their names under this massive umbrella tree that grew between their family compounds in Ibadan. And they promised that if they were both still single at 30, they will marry each other. Cute, right? Except life had other plans. When they were 16, their families went from being best friends to bitter enemies overnight. Tomiwa's father and Deji's father had a business dispute that got ugly so fast. We're talking lawyers, accusations, court cases, the whole dramatic Nigerian family feud package. It got so bad that Tomiwa's family packed up and moved to Abuja, cutting off all contact with their Adeyanjus. The adults forbade any communication between the children, and that was how, just like that, Tomiwa lost her best friend without even getting to say goodbye. Fast forward 12 years, and now they are both sitting in the conference room right now, staring at each other like they've seen something impossible. Deji is an engineer now, successful too, and he's been hired to handle the structural modifications for this massive wedding venue, which means, plot twist, they have to work together for the next 2 months. The bride's family is completely oblivious to the tension crackling between these two people. They keep pairing them up for tasks, and honestly, their professional chemistry is undeniable. Tomiwa's creative vision meshes perfectly with Deji's technical expertise. I'm talking basketballs is given. They are selecting altar positions, coordinating with traditional drummers, testing sound systems until late in the evening, and then slowly, they are all dynamic starts creeping back. The inside jokes, the way they can communicate with just a look, the easy banter that used to drive their parents crazy with how in sync they were. But here is where things get messy, my dear. Tomiwa's parents decide to surprise her with a visit to Abuja. Oh, no! And her mother, Alhaja Adeyemi, spots Deji's business card on the dining table. The woman loses her mind completely. We're talking threats of disowning. Hey! Accusation of betrayal demands that Tomiwa quit the biggest project of her career immediately. Meanwhile, word gets back to Deji's father through mutual contacts in Ibadan, business on to be precise, and he's putting the same pressure on his son. So now, Tomiwa is stuck between the career opportunity of a lifetime and family loyalty. But it gets worse because she and Deji start meeting in secret. They are sneaking around like teenagers, meeting at small bookers in Ibadan's back streets, sitting in her car parked under that same umbrella tree where they made their childhood pacts. The tree is now in some gated estates, but their names are still there, faded but visible. Every stolen moment they spend together makes it clearer that what they had as children has grown into something much deeper. Aww. This isn't nostalgia or unfinished business. They are falling in love for real this time. And the timing couldn't be worse. The pressure starts eating at both of them. Tomiwa stops eating properly. Her hands shake during clients' meetings. And she's lying to her parents about her whereabouts for the first time in her life. Deji's engineering calculation starts containing errors, which is unheard of for him. And his business partner threatens to remove him from the project. But wait, so there's more. During one of their late night planning sessions, they are going through old photos in the bride's family archive when they stumble across a picture from 1995. It's a Christmas party, and there are both their families laughing together like one big happy unit. Their fathers have arms around each other's shoulders, looking like brothers. That is when Deji tells her the truth that's been eating at him for years. The business disputes that tore their families apart, it wasn't just about money or pride. Tomiwa's father had lent Deji's father 2 million naira back then, which was serious money if you remember, in the 90s to help start his construction company. When Nigeria's economy went crazy and the naira now crashed, Deji's father couldn't repay the loan. But instead of having an honest conversation about it, pride got in the way. Both men let their egos and lawyers destroy a 20-year friendship. This revelation changes everything for Tomiwa. She realizes that she and Deji weren't just collateral damage in some business disputes. They were the heart of the wound. Both families lost their closest friends over a misunderstanding that could have been resolved with one honest conversation between two men who loved each other like brothers. Now she's really torn. Every evening she spends with Deji under that umbrella tree, tracing their carved names with trembling fingers makes their childhood pact feel less like a naive promise and more like destiny calling. But choosing him might mean losing her family forever. And that's a price she's not sure she's ready to pay. The wedding day arrives, and of course, disaster strikes 2 hours before the ceremony. A structural beam in the reception hall shows stress fractures, which is every engineer's nightmare and every event planner's worst fear. The only solution requires both families' companies working together. Tomiwa has to coordinate moving 400 guests while Deji implements emergency structural support, and they are racing against time. As they are working frantically to save this wedding, both sets of parents arrive at the venue simultaneously. The confrontation everybody has been dreading finally happens under the wedding tent with 400 guests as witnesses. Tomiwa's father and Deji's father are standing face to face for the first time in 12 years, and the tension is so thick you can cut it with a knife. The moment stretches painfully until Tomiwa steps between these two grown men who have been acting like children forever, over a decade. Her voice carries across the silent crowd as she says, "Baba, Uncle Adeyanju, you taught us that family means everything. You showed us how to love without limits, but you also showed us how pride can destroy everything beautiful." Then she takes Deji's hand right there in front of everyone and declares, "We won't let your mistakes define our future. We've already lost 12 years. We won't lose anymore." And you know what? Sometimes love really does conquer all. The wedding gets saved. Both fathers finally have the conversation they should have had 12 years ago. And 6 months later, Tomiwa and Deji have their own traditional wedding under the same umbrella tree with their fathers serving as each other's best men. Here's what I've learned from Tomiwa's story. Don't let other people's pride cost you your happiness. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to inherit someone else's grudges. Family feuds might feel permanent, but love has a way of healing wounds that seems impossible to mend. And those childhood promises you made, maybe they weren't as silly as you thought. Sometimes the heart knows what it wants long before the mind catches up.